Hello everybody, my name is Colin, and today I'm bringing you another video. Today I'll be ranking all the comic book movies that came out in 2019. Now, I know I could have done this video like a month ago, but we're finally getting the Birds of Prey movie this weekend, so I thought it was appropriate. But let's get right into the list. Coming in all the way down at number 6 is the one movie I actually didn't get to review this year, and that was Dark Phoenix. Oh boy, so, Dark Phoenix, my expectations, I was excited, but I was also worried, because X-Men Apocalypse was very disappointing, and I didn't hate Apocalypse, it was mediocre, kinda, I just didn't really care for it too much, but I didn't hate Apocalypse. I hated Dark Phoenix, this movie's pretty bad, and I saw it 2 weeks late, because I was doing my, midterms then, so it was kinda hard, obviously, to go see a movie while doing midterms, but it was just very disappointing. I didn't immediately hate it, but the more I thought about it, this movie's structure, the tone, some of the dialogue in here is just god awful. And just like a lot of cringy moments, the CGI isn't very good. It's probably the most bland and dull entry of the entire X-Men franchise. And it's not the worst X-Men movie. X-Men Origins, X-Men Last Stand, those shitty movies are worse. They're worse. But Dark Phoenix is a bad movie. It's definitely one of the worst comic book films I've seen in the past 10 years. Sophie Turner, she doesn't really feel like Jean Grey to me. She did in Apocalypse, but it's so rushed and illogical, her turning into Dark Phoenix. It just doesn't work. Cyclops is an idiot in this movie. There is some decent acting. I think James McAvoy is still pretty good as Charles Xavier. And Magneto didn't really need to be in the movie. And just a lot of people are shoehorned in. There is some entertaining action here and there. The train scene at the end, I kind of like. I actually did enjoy. Jennifer Lawrence seemed like she was trying. It's just such a rushed, poorly paced mess. Like this movie, the score by Hans Zimmer is good. It's just a mess. Like apart from a few comic book Easter eggs, I guess if you take that for enjoyability, this movie's just really bad. Like it's pretty crappy. But it's not the worst X-Men film. I definitely have seen worse. When people are like, this is worse than The Last Stand, it's like, no, The Last Stand is worse. And when people tell me this is like the second worst movie of the year, like Watch Mojo literally ranked it the second worst movie of the year, no, it's not nearly as awful as Cats. It's like, this is a bad movie, but I've definitely seen worse movies from this year. But no debate, Dark Phoenix is the worst comic book film to come out in 2019. Coming in at number 5 is Captain Marvel. So, I'm a big fan of Captain Marvel in the comics. I know a lot of people aren't, but I really like her character in the comics because they actually have time to evolve and develop her character. In here, in this movie, she doesn't have an arc. Like, she just didn't develop for me. And I really just didn't like the movie. It was pretty meh. It wasn't bad. Thor the Dark World is worse. That's the worst Marvel movie. But Captain Marvel, I didn't think Brie Larson did that good of a job in the role. I didn't really think she added that much to the character. I did like Samuel Jackson. Some of the CGI with his face was fantastic. But the way he lost his eye was so dumb. And just a lot of the action I wasn't really entertained by. There was some stuff like the soundtrack I did enjoy, but I just found it to be very poorly paced. Like, I never felt really that bored in a Marvel movie, except for this one. Some decent acting here and there. A lot of the CGI, like especially that final battle is a failure. I didn't like what it did with the Kree and the Skrulls, like the twist it tries to do. It's so stupid. And they made the Skrulls, they were so bland in this movie. They didn't give them any characteristics. They actually have characteristics in the comics. Ben Mendelsohn does give a good performance, but I just didn't like the movie. I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't a fan of Captain Marvel. I was very disappointed. I didn't have that much fun watching the movie, and I honestly think it did contradict some serious stuff in the MCU, especially with that post-credit scene where that's how Nick Fury was inspired to come up with the name The Avengers. I just thought that was kind of trash. Like, like, when people yell at you for, like, not loving this movie and saying you're a sexist, that's wrong. But saying that only people that are, like, SJWs like this movie, that's also wrong. Like, I just hate that since this is the first female Marvel movie, it's got to be so political. It's just another Marvel movie. It's, like, just painfully average, and that's why I don't like it. It's bland, it's very lazy, and it just doesn't cover any new ground. It just... like, it didn't explain her powers, didn't develop her character. I just did not like this movie. I don't hate it. There's certain stuff in it that I do like. I just, all in all, didn't like the movie. It is definitely in my bottom 3 Marvel movies. But if you liked it, good for you. All right, huge jump here. My number 4 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. I loved Spider-Man: Far From Home. Probably one of my best Spider-Man movies. It's not nearly as great as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse because that film is a masterpiece, and I'd honestly put that in like my top 10 favorite comic book movies probably of all time. Love Spider-Verse so much, and Spider-Man 2 is definitely better. But I'd say I love this slightly more than Homecoming, and probably more than the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Spider-Man: Far From Home. I love Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Mysterio is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, and Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite actors working today. And I thought he did a good job in the role. I thought the twist they did with his character was really well done. Even if you're a comic fan, you did expect it coming. Zendaya, I definitely liked more in this movie, and I like some of the humor in here. JB Smoove, who's great as Leon on Curb Your Enthusiasm, he was really funny in here. I really liked Peter's arc and his development in this movie, like a lot of the emotional moments where he's remembering Tony's death. Like, I think they really developed that relationship there, and it makes some of the emotional moments in this movie hit much harder. Jon Favreau, he didn't have to be in it. Happy, he was fine, but it's like, and even like during the first act, I thought that they could have done more with the story and the characters, but it was funny for the most part. And this was definitely just another very fun Spider-Man movie with good writing, good character arc for Spider-Man, and that final battle slaps. Love the final battle. And overall, I love Spider-Man: Far From Home. It's not necessarily one of my favorite Marvel movies. It's just another Marvel movie that I really loved, and it was a pretty great movie. So coming in at number 3, we have got Shazam. Now, the DCU has, for the most part, been kind of a failure. I mean, Man of Steel was alright, I guess. Batman v Superman, the original cut, was crap. Suicide Squad was really crap. Justice League was a mess. Didn't hate it. Wonder Woman I loved. Wonder Woman's honestly still the best DCU movie. Aquaman I really liked. I might have to rewatch it because I haven't rewatched it in a few months, but I really enjoy that movie. As an Aquaman fan, I kind of love it, but like there's certain stuff as a film, it doesn't really work. Shazam, aside from Wonder Woman, is the only great DCU movie. I mean, I love what it did with the characters. I thought Zachary Levi did a great job in the role. I thought Dr. Savannah was a pretty great villain, even if some of his motives could have been better. And it was just very funny. I liked a lot of the superhero themes in it. It was just another really great superhero movie, and a lot of people say, like, because of the jokes, like, it's kind of following the Marvel formula. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, not every DC movie has to go for that dark and gritty tone. And I thought it was well paced, and I just thought Shazam was a pretty great movie. I did a review on it, so if you want to hear more thoughts, I did some in there. A few minor issues like pacing, and it does overstay its welcome. Like, it has the problem a lot of the DC movies have with the final battle feeling incredibly underwhelming. And there is some stuff in the third act I thought they should have saved for a sequel. Some stuff was a little rushed here and there. But all in all, Shazam's a really great movie. All right, another big jump to the top 2. These next 2 films are in my top 10 favorite comic book films of all time, and they both made my top 10 favorite movies last year. I gave both these movies 4 to 4 stars in my reviews. My number 2, and some of you honestly might kind of hate on me for not putting this at number 1. I get it, because number 2 is a masterpiece, and that movie is Joker. Oh my god, Joker is such a masterpiece of a film, because I love Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. He is one of the best actors working today. I mean, Gladiator, The Master, Her, Walk the Line. The guy just makes great performances, and this is close to being his best performance. I think The Master is probably overall his best acting-wise, but like just him playing the Joker, so good, because in this movie, you really do feel for Arthur's character. You empathize with him, and it really just shows how when you ignore someone or you reject them in our like very complicated society, that person can go to evil. And when he first kills those guys on the train, after that he's dancing happy. He learns that he likes it. He likes to be bad, and like just his character arc in here. And I liked all the political stuff with Thomas Wayne and his mother. I thought that was well done. I did like the Zazie Beetz twist. I know a lot of people didn't. Now, a lot of the critics of Joker don't like it for some of its views on mental illness and gun violence, and a lot of people say it's a kind of a halfway ripoff of Taxi Driver and the King of Comedy. And I even said in my review, this movie does have similarities to Taxi Driver, but it's still an original and groundbreaking movie. Like, it's not a rehash like that shit Lion King remake, so don't use that as your only argument, the fact that it's got some similarities to Taxi Driver. This movie's still a masterpiece. Joaquin Phoenix, for me, gave the best performance of the year. I think he should win the Oscar, and I do think he's going to. He deserves it. Just like he completely disappeared into this role, and I just loved the editing, the cinematography, and it's funny in my review. I said I didn't think Joker was going to get nominated for that many Oscars, even if I thought it should, because the Oscars just don't nominate comic book movies. And it's kind of ironic now that Joker's been nominated for 11 Oscars, the most of any comic book movie ever. Like, that's awesome, because Joker is just such a great movie, and the ending is something that will be interpreted for years. And Robert De Niro was great. I loved his scene with Murray. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie. Just the dialogue there, and yeah, it doesn't have a lot of action. It's not the most entertaining movie for kids, but I just really loved everything Joker did, and it was just such a great movie. And it's one I'm going to be singing its praises for years. One of the best comic book movies ever made. One of the best films of 2019, and very close to being my favorite comic book film of 2019. But at number one, you guys know what it is. This was the movie I saw several times in theaters. It gave me the best movie-going experience I had all year. And I didn't know how it was going to surpass Infinity War, but in my opinion, it did. And that is Avengers Endgame. I just love what this movie does with its characters, what it does with Iron Man and Captain America and Thanos. Just wraps everything up so neatly in a tight bow, and how it ends these several character arcs. And I think it does earn its 3 hour runtime. It might drag for some people, but it didn't for me. I loved every second of this movie. Tony Stark's emotional death scene, my god, that hit me so hard. And you just have some awesome comic book geek moments, like Cap lifting Mjolnir, and that final battle with Thanos is so epic. But also, like, the first half is just like, it's almost like The Leftovers, like an emotional, you have these characters suffering from a traumatic experience and dealing with that trauma and emotion. And I just think that's showed so well. And the performances in here are fantastic. This was my favorite movie of last year. There might be certain movies like Marriage Story or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that were better made, but as a Marvel fan, Avengers Endgame for me was the film of 2019. It is my favorite Marvel movie, probably one of my favorite films of the last decade. I just love it that much. It is such a great movie, and I'll be watching it for years. Avengers Endgame is a masterpiece and the best comic book film of 2019. Alright guys, so that was my video today, ranking all 6 comic book movies from 2019. I know this list was a long time coming, but better now than never. So let me know what your guys' list is, and please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and as always, subscribe for more movie-related content. Thank you all for watching, and I will hasta la vista.